Hi, everyone, and welcome to the openinPHL podcast. I'm your host, Carl,
And I'm Danielle.
and on this podcast, we share the stories of the artists, stores, restaurants, and other businesses that make Philly special. Today, we interview Sabeen Zia of the Indie Shelf, a shop and graduate hospital that curates indie beauty brands.
Sabeen is actually a cosmetic chemist by trade who first created her own lipstick line before opening a shop with the mission to support emerging brands. In today's episode, we talk green beauty, personalization, and the lifelong pursuit of learning. Hey, Sabeen, and welcome to the openinPHL podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
Cool. So let's start at the start. Are you from Philly? And if not, where are you from?
No, I moved to Philly. It'll be 5 years this week, actually. I married my husband. This Thursday will be our anniversary. And then I moved to Philly. So he's been here for the last 15, 16 years. He had the better job at that moment. So I was like, all right, I'll move to Philly. So I moved from Houston, but I grew up on the East Coast. So I grew up mainly in Boston.
Were you in Houston for school or for work?
No, I actually, when I graduated college in Boston, my family moved to Houston, and so I just moved with them. And then I moved back to New Jersey for grad school at Fairleigh Dickinson. So I was in Jersey for 2 years, and then I moved back to Houston because I just wanted to be closer to family.
This was you living in Philly for the first time when you moved here, correct?
Yeah, and we live in Center City. Even when I lived in Jersey, we just never came to Philly. It wasn't really a thing. You always went to New York. So I was a little nervous moving to Philly, being like, what's there? I don't even know. I love it. It's absolutely amazing to live in the city and, see it change and grow so much, but also just meet all these new people, especially through my business now. So fun. Yeah.
Prior to opening the Indie Shelf, what did you do for work, Sabeen?
Right before I opened it, I worked for a small company about 30 minutes away from Philly, a distributor for nail salons. And they had just opened a department for this indie nail polish. And I was part of their marketing and development team. So I worked there for a couple of weeks and absolutely hated it. It was just not a good work environment. It was about a 45 to 50-minute drive from here. I think within 10 weeks, I felt like I worked there for 10 years. I talked to my husband about it, and he was like, all right, well, if it sucks, it sucks. Get out of there. So I did, and that's when I moved forward to my businesses. Before that, in Houston, I worked for a hair care company, and I was their marketing and research and development manager for them. Pretty fun to get into the little details of how to put a product together, from a formula to packaging and how to get it on the market and stuff. So I definitely learned a lot through my previous jobs.
I actually read that you're a cosmetic chemist.
I am. Yeah.
So what is that?
So it's basically the person in the lab making the formulas and checking, the stability of it and the color and, making sure it doesn't burn your scalp if it's a hair care product or your skin. So that's actually what I went to grad school for. I have my master's in cosmetic chemistry. So then I worked at L'Oreal for a few years and did hair care there. For larger companies, you basically sit at a bench and do the same thing over and over, which is great for someone who's just getting into the industry because you're learning one thing at a time. Those are the people that are making the formula that's sitting in your bathroom or your, dresser or whatnot to make sure it's a good formula. It doesn't separate. The pH is, safe enough for the skin. They check everything. It's compatible with the packaging and things like that. So that's formulation side of it. And then there's production and, upscaling and making sure that, whatever you made at that lab bench, when it is made in a larger tank or a larger upscale, it performs the same way that it did at your small batch formula. I can't even get into the chemistry side of it because you don't really use it as much as, I guess you use it when you're putting the formula together to see the components and seeing what's, what ingredient can mix with another ingredient. And so that's when the chemistry comes in. And definitely had the opportunity to learn the different stages of building a formula through my employers. So, I started with L'Oreal with the smaller, batch formulas. And then I got into another job where they did the upskilling of production. So I got to see that side of it. And then I got into marketing and research and development. And that's the side where, you know, where does the product start? Where is it born? So your marketing team tells you like, hey guys, this is what we want to do. So they talk to the chemists and say, this is the product we want to put on the market. Is it possible? And then the chemists are like, yeah, well, this is possible. This is not. And they're always butting heads. It's kind of like nurses and doctors. They're always butting heads. It's chemists and marketing teams are always butting heads. It's kind of interesting to be finally on the marketing side to see that their perspective of what are the things that they are asking and why were they asking. So they're doing a lot of market research too, but they just, want a formula. And then when it comes down to it, the chemists are like, well, that's not a possible formula. Like it's going to separate or it's going to do this. I'm lucky enough to have gotten these job opportunities to learn every stage of the formulas, which brought me to my businesses that I have today.
Is that a lifelong dream of yours to work in cosmetics?
I kind of fell into it. When I got into my undergrad, I was doing pharmacy school for 2 years and I absolutely hated it. So I quit, but then I switched over to toxicology, which wasn't any easier. And then so when I graduated from there, it was very hard to get a job in toxicology because I was competing with master's students or PhDs. I knew I had to eventually go back to grad school in order to get some sort of like decent job. So when I moved back to Houston, I was working at a lab, but the lab timings were like 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. That was my shift. And so after 2 p.m., I was like, oh, I'm done. And I don't have any friends here. I'm new here. So what do I do? So I picked up a second job, which was at Sephora. And
very fun.
So I was like, okay. I like nothing about makeup. I didn't even wear makeup before that. So I was like, okay, let's try it. And I loved it. So they put me in their skincare department and I got to learn a lot. And they're really good with education and teaching your employees how to sell a product and what products are on the shelves. So it was really great to learn all these different things. And this was like a while ago. So green and clean beauty wasn't even a thing then. And so I was like, man, I wish there was something like science wise that I could incorporate in my master's to do this. So I looked it up and I found that cosmetic chemistry program and I was like, oh, this is kind of weird. Like, this is exactly what I want to do. And so that's actually how I got into it. So if I didn't pick up that Sephora job, I don't know where I would be right now. Probably at some boring science lab.
Yeah, still sitting on that bench.
I know, right? Yeah, so it's crazy how things work, but that's how I got into it. I was lucky enough to get those job opportunities to learn like things hands-on throughout that product process that you have.
Totally. That seems like the most organic way to learn something is to just learn by doing.
Oh, definitely. That's probably the best way to learn. I personally think so.
So how did you come up with the idea for the indie shelf?
After I left that job right outside of Philly, I always wanted to create my own brand. And so I actually have a lipstick brand called Muskan Makeup. And so Muskan means smile. And so I started working on that. And I knew the back and like what I needed to do to get the product developed. But then afterwards, when I worked for companies and trying to get a product through someone else's company, it was very easy because you already had connections. But trying to get your product in front of buyers and just customers in general on your own by yourself, it was very hard and challenging. And so I learned a lot. And then, I would go to different trade shows or different seminars where there'd be a lot of mentors, and then also just people like me that are building their brands, and we shared our horror stories but also our successes. And so after that I thought like, okay, well, Philly doesn't have a store that supports small brands. Now I think there are a couple, but when I had opened, there was nothing. There was, your Sephora, your Blue Mercury and everything, but there was nothing that was supporting these smaller brands to get exposed to Philadelphia, or even just anyone to say, hey, there's a product here. You guys should check it out. So that's how I got to the indie shelf. So no one was taking my lipstick. So I was like, I'll just open a store and put my lipstick in there. So I carry brands that are small brands. I test the products out. I'll talk to the owners, and it's kind of cool to get to know like different owners and how they came about. So if you even look at my website, there's no online store, but there's stories about interviews with some of the brands. A little behind on that as well, but there's enough interviews for you to read and kind of get an idea of like where people are coming from and how much like dedication and passion gets put into a product that you may go and buy. So I definitely have a lot of brands in the store. Some are very small, Some are, a good size. They're still doing well. There are enough stores. And some actually this past year I've seen get into larger department stores that weren't in before. So they are growing, they are successful. And I guess I like to think that, maybe a buyer came in and saw it on my shelf and then they said, hey, we're going to bring it to Neiman's or Nordstrom. That's our goal, to expose these small brands that have really effective, successful products and say, hey, this is us, try it out. And in hopes that our customers will like it, but then also like it helps these small brands to grow into big brands.
That's awesome. As the owner of a small brand myself, I totally understand how tough it can be to get your product in front of a decision maker. So to have someone who actually owns their own store with the mission to support these small brands is a really comforting thought.
Hey, I'm glad.
So you mentioned your lipstick line was gone. As a vegan, I'm very into the fact that your line is cruelty-free and a portion of it goes to charity. So what prompted you to start your own lipstick line before you started the store?
I think I started with lipstick because lipsticks are a little bit easier to introduce to a new customer that's not familiar with your brand. So when it comes to cosmetics, you have a face product and eyes. People are always a little nervous to try that out. But if you open your drawer, I'm sure you have 100 lipsticks in there from every brand, probably like the same colors. It was something that like I thought that would be easy to introduce to a new customer before growing the brand to other products. Also, I felt like there was a little bit of a gap with green beauty and trying to find a lipstick that was on the clean beauty market that had pigments and color. Because right now, all of the green lipsticks are really great, but they don't have a lot of color like a matte lipstick would. So I worked with a lab that uses natural and organic products. And I told them that I want them to put in pigments enough where it's safe for someone, but also gives a lot of payoff on the color. So the current formula we have is like a demi matte formula. So it gives you really good color, but it doesn't feel drying. So a lot of your matte lipsticks feel like give you great color, but then they're very, very drying. And that's tough because then you just feel like you're eating them. And so eating lipstick is also a thing because it is on your lips. And we actually, I don't know, like 20 something pounds in your lifetime that like a woman eats lipstick because that's how much she's like licking her lips. So you want it to be safe. I want it to be obviously cruelty free and vegan, but also gluten free because you do have people who are, it's not just like a diet, but it's more of a safety concern that if someone's allergic to gluten and they're putting a lipstick on and has gluten in there, then it's dangerous. And another thing that I had hoped it would stand me out with the other brands is that I had it certified halal. Halal is similar to kosher, but why it would apply to lipsticks is not just from a food perspective, but also in order to get certified halal for a lipstick, they not only check the raw materials ingredients, but they also check the production line to make sure that there's no cross-contamination while producing. It's kind of like I took that extra step to say, okay, the ingredients are clean, but also the production is clean and there's no cross-contamination between any animal byproducts, alcohol, and GMOs. And so it's a very clean product. It's not necessarily like a religious thing or a, preference to like what you're eating, but it's more just like if you're looking for a clean lipstick, that would be it. And then in terms of giving back, that was very important to me. And so I know like, as a small brand, you want to help small brands like we are at the Indie Shelf, but there are also a lot of small charities that I came across that are doing really big things, but they don't have the support because they're too small to be exposed to it. You have the larger charities. It's the same thing. You have large charities that have so much support and it's great. But I found some charities that were giving 100% of their donations to their causes, but they just didn't have that donation support. So I wanted to find different charities. And so we changed it up like every few months. We're coming across like different charities, and exposing those, but also covering different causes too. So I'm always asking my customers too, if there's a charity that you know of, you should let us know. And then it also gives the customer kind of a little bit of control to where they're sending their donation to. So if you're in our checkout, it will give you two options, 2 to 3 options, whatever is at that point, and then they can read up on those charities and see which charity they want their portion to go to. So it kind of gives them the control too, to say, I want it to go to this cause, not that cause. And then that way we get to help a little bit of different causes versus just one.
What were some of the most recent charities that you have sponsored?
Last year, I added a charity called DACA, and they're based out of Chicago, but the woman that runs it lives in New Jersey. And I've seen her do a lot of great stuff for different projects that are in Africa, in Pakistan, and I think in India as well. And so 100% goes to the cause. So I added that last year to it, but unfortunately my sales went down, so I still have her on there. So the project that I picked for her was called Pencil of Promises. And so they build schools to send to girls in Africa. And then I always try to do a local one and then an international one. So the one that I launched with was Philly Paws.
Love.
Yeah, so Philly Paws was really great. We got some good support. I think we donated $300. It was really great because when I launched with it, it was good support. So then we, could see that we made a difference to these charities.
The Indie Shelf is in between the Schuylkill River and Broad Street, right off of South Street. So how did you decide on this physical location for your business, and what drew you to this neighborhood?
So I live 5 minutes away.
Convenient, yeah.
Yeah, so that was convenient. However, I was eyeing this location for a while. So when I started the project of the Indie Shelf, I wanted a location that wasn't too retail focused, where we would end up getting too much window shoppers, but I still wanted enough traffic to, run the business. So I live in this neighborhood, which the Graduate Hospital neighborhood. I'm right down the street. And just from the 5 years, I've seen it grow so much. And I wanted to be a part of that versus going into like Walnut and Chestnut, which would have been great, but it's also a lot of foot traffic that's window shoppers, right? It's also very expensive there. So I had either chosen this one or Old City. And Old City the same way, if we went in, we would get some really great traffic, but then we would also get a lot of tourists, which wouldn't be return customers. So I wanted to really figure out a location where I would have a good relationship with my clients, because we would be a small business. So that would develop a relationship where we would, they come in for my products and trust me with their skin and hair and whatnot. We'd also be part of this growing neighborhood that's changing so much. And I think I made the right decision because we're on the corner of the street. We have really great traffic. We've built such a great relationship with our clients. If they come in and we're not like, oh, buy this, buy this, buy that. We really want to make sure they're getting products that are the right thing for them. Because if they don't, they're just going to come back, or they're never going to come back because they're going to hate the products. So I think the neighborhood worked really well just because there are some really good small businesses around us and they're still opening. We like to be in this little street. So yeah, that's really, I think the main thing was that I knew it was a growing neighborhood to be in. So I wanted to be part of that.
Definitely has its own mix of small businesses, but also a relaxed environment because you tie in the residential area there.
Yes.
But it's so close to, Schuylkill River and Drexel and Penn, and then you keep going down towards South Street and it changes so much. But I think that's a very interesting niche right there.
Even our clients, a lot of them are around the neighborhood. So I've gotten to meet a lot of my own neighbors and get to know them. And, we do delivery. So I'll deliver it like, if it's down the street, they're like, okay, we'll just like walk over and give it to them. So it's kind of cool just like having this like cute little like corner stored for people to come in. And everyone that comes in, they're very genuine. They're very excited to come in. And they like the fact that there is this beauty shop in their neighborhood now. So they're very supportive. I can't be more like thankful for how supportive the neighborhood has been.
Local support's a huge thing for any small business. And it's awesome to hear that it's definitely alive and well over there. Very cool.
No, it's been really great.
How do you think your previous experiences have prepared you for being a business owner?
Oh,
we know that you have a background in marketing, which came across post working with the cosmetic chemistry. Right. Is there anything else that's kind of tied in as you move towards being the business owner?
I think the combination of marketing and then also knowing back end of developing a formula made me a little bit more detail oriented on the business. So like, having things in order, making sure every detail was taken care of in terms of launching the business and what we need for it in terms of the website and store. But I'll be honest, I did not have any business experience before this. I just launched right in and said, okay, let's figure it out. I think Muskan definitely prepped me for the indie shelf on what to do and what not to do in terms of finances. When I had the Muskan business, I had a budget and I thought, I was like, oh, this is a great budget. I'm just going to spend, spend, spend. And so definitely learned, like, Muskan's my baby. It was my first business, right? So I'm always going to make sure it's taken care of. But I think I moved too fast with that. And I overspent on some things that weren't as important. So when I did the indie shelf, I knew where to not overspend. I don't go to this department or this company. I can still get things done without having, large support or expensive support, I guess. Muskan probably is the one that really prepped me to open the indie shelf from a business perspective, just to learn all the do's and don'ts with it.
And that's been a recurring answer, Danielle. You can agree that with most of the people we've interviewed, they've said that they've learned to not rush things.
Only you see what's not perfect about your business, but everyone else doesn't see it. They just see a cool business. So I loved everything I did with Muskan, like, the logo, and the company I worked with did an amazing job with all the colors and the packaging, and they really listened to what I wanted. I think it's just one of those things, again, I overspent when it came to like inventory and things like that and how to launch it and how to approach it. So I was that one who just spent a lot of money on trade shows because I thought I had to be at every trade show, which is not the case. And those trade shows are expensive. So I think that was my biggest mistake. Yeah, that was my biggest mistake. Now that I think about it, I mean, till today, I'm like, what was I thinking? But I got scared and I was like, I need to launch. And I need to go to all of these brands, all of these trade shows. But you have to remember, like, I can only speak for the beauty industry, is that these trade shows, there are a lot of brands there. And if you're a new brand, you may get noticed and it's great. You got lucky. But if you don't, you just spent a crazy amount of money on this trade show. It takes time and your brand's not going to grow within 2 months. It's going to take years and years for you to actually get noticed. So you have to start slow. You have to be patient. And so I did that with the indie shelf where I'm like, okay, I don't need to spend money here. I don't need to work with this person. I can work with this person. Even when I opened the store, like opening day, the night before, I was at the store till like 1 a.m. And I was like, okay, should I make it perfect? And then I had to like really hold myself back and be like, I'm the only one that sees the imperfections on this. Tomorrow, everyone's going to be like, this is crazy. Like, okay. And that's exactly what happened. So I think we just need to remind ourselves of do the most important stuff and everything else, do it slowly. It's a learning experience. I think I still need to learn a lot, but I've learned quite a bit in the last year of like what else not to do and what we did right, what we did wrong. But for the most part, I'm happy of how I launched the indie shelf.
Yeah, I constantly have to remind myself not to let perfect be the enemy of good, and that most people just see the tip of the iceberg, but you see everything else that's under the surface, and which can sometimes work against you, but other times it can be your guiding path. So you opened in early 2019. How has your team grown since then? Have you added employees?
Not necessarily added. I've changed employees. So it's a small shop. There's only so much payroll I can do. So I had some really great employees come and leave in the last year, but they all left because they got a full-time job and it was a part-time job for them or whatnot. So it wasn't anything like, oh, I hate this job, let them out. It was just more that unfortunately I could not keep them on as a full-time until we grow later. So now I have 2 employees. Because of COVID, I had to limit the hours. So we reopened a few weeks ago, but I limited the hours to open just to reduce exposure. We didn't want to be open 7 days a week. So we're open Thursday to Sunday, 12 to 5. And I'm only having 1 employee there for now, just so it's consistent in terms of, who's there, who's not. So there's not 2 people there. It's a small shop. It's 600 square feet, but she's great. Her name is Asa and she has a beauty background. And she's very knowledgeable in like all the products and just in skincare in general. And then I have another employee, Alex, who's been with us since July, I believe. She's like a young college student, so it's a part-time job for her. And so she would work like weekends or throughout the week. So hopefully once, we figure COVID out, I can have both of them on the schedule. And then I just had a baby in April. So yeah, so COVID like shut us down in March. And that was supposed to be when I, had the two girls set with a schedule and I was going to chill at home. And then all of a sudden this happened. So then in order to kind of keep us going, I started doing deliveries and shipments. So then the last few weeks of my pregnancy, I was like running around town, just doing deliveries and stuff, which was great because again, people were very, very supportive. So we had some really great support that month. And now that we've reopened, I'm like, guys, you're going to take care of this. I'm down the street. Let me know if you need help. So I think between the three of us, eventually when we have regular hours, I think that's more than enough for us.
Do you hire based on any skill sets or behaviors or personality types?
I think I always wanted someone who's very likable and approachable, not just with clients, but even as a team members, so they can work independently but also work as a team, that are willing to learn, because there is a lot of product, there is a lot of knowledge that you need to have when you're there. I didn't necessarily require beauty experience. I don't think I would probably require that until maybe we grow a little bit more. Right now I just needed some support to help me with the store, so if I can't be there, then someone else be there. But then I work with the girls to teach them whatever they need for the product. So if new product comes in, I'll shoot it in an email with it and be like, this is great with this and you can recommend it with that. And then they learn on their own as well too. So if some products come in, they'll read about it and figure that out. Other than that, anytime I did some interviews, it was always important to meet them and just have like a friendly conversation with them. Like, as long as you get your work done, I'm good. There's no competition in that store. We're not working on commission. If you're working on commission, it will never be a teamwork situation. I always tell them, like, you will never work on commission at the indie shelf, unfortunately. Like, if you're cool with that, that's fine. But if you're not, like, I think it changes the environment of working, but also it changes how you're talking to a customer too, right? I want people who are genuinely recommending the right product for that customer. And so sometimes we have people come, they're like, okay, we want everything. We want X, Y, Z. And I'm like, well, you don't need X, Y, Z. You just need X and Y for now. And they'll come back. And they always do. So it kind of builds that relationship where they walk out and say, okay, well, she didn't sell me like products I didn't need. That's really cool. I'm going to come back and get that product later. And I think that's really important, especially for a small business. And we're so small, literally as a store too. People will know us. Like, I know some of my clients by name. And so I always looked for someone that was able to do that when I interviewed for my staff, is that you should be genuine and approachable, genuinely help people out with what they need. And if they don't need it, don't give it to them. And I think that works for us. We don't get a lot of returns either. I mean, now because of COVID, I'm not taking any returns, but like pre-COVID, we didn't have that many. Even after like the holiday, I was prepared for it. I was like, all right, we're going to get the holiday rush with all the returns. And we got 0.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I was surprised, but I was pleasantly surprised too. So yeah.
Yeah, I think when you can sell with the person's best interest in mind, then that just increases their lifetime value and they'll keep coming back. So you end up actually making more money in the end.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true.
Not like that's like the main objective, but it's definitely important if you want to stay in business.
Well, yeah, no, and that's what people say. I'm like, it's probably like, even I don't have an online store. And so people are like, why don't you have an online store? And I'm like, sometimes people just go online and they'll just buy all this product because they're just having a bad day or whatever the reason is, right? Retail therapy is a thing, especially right now. And I was like, but can you imagine, like, I've done it and I like buy a bunch of products and then I get it. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't need all of this. And so then we'll have return. So I do deliver locally and then I'll ship anywhere in the US. So I will basically talk to people directly. I'll talk to them and ask them what they want, what they're looking for, or if they're just like, I just want to buy something and this is what I like and this is my budget. And I'll be like, okay. And then I'll just take some photos of some products that I recommend and I'll send it to them and they'll be like, yeah, this is great. And I'll either deliver or ship it or they'll pick up whatever, we're doing curbside pickup now. And that way they're getting products that they actually really needed, or wanted, or for their friends and family or themselves. And we're getting them what they needed without overspending. They're staying in their own budget too. So it might not be from, I guess, business perspective the best, but we're still in business. So I guess something's working.
Absolutely. It just seems more thoughtful that way.
Yeah. And I get to know a lot of my customers that way too. And then we try to sample. So pre-COVID, we would make little samples in plastic jars. And then we had pre-packed samples. And now, because of COVID, we've stopped that too. And now we just do I've had the brands that give me pre-packed product if they have it. If they don't have the samples, we're just kind of holding off on it at that point, which is fine. People have been really understanding. But samples are really great because it gives the client a chance to try it out without feeling like they have to buy it. But it also, again, goes back to the returns. So even if I have a client who's like, okay, I'm not sure, but you know what, I really want to buy it. We always did give them a sample of it and said, try the sample. If you like it, you already have it. If you don't even have to open the box and we can return it. So that saved us too, because if someone did return, we could put it back on the shelf. If someone returned to open product, we have to trash it, right? Post-COVID, I don't know what we're going to do with that. Right now, it's just no returns at all.
Yeah, everything's up in the air right now.
Yeah.
So as a female who dabbles in skincare, there's, like you said, nothing more frustrating than buying a product that turns out to be ineffective for my particular skin. But you do offer that concierge service to point customers in the right direction to avoid that. So can you speak to the methodology you use to customize someone's selection?
So I'll basically ask questions like, well, okay, what's their skin type? What does their skin feel like when they wash their skin? What's their daily routine? So are they an athlete? Are they, a medical professional? Like, what is their profession? So that also affects your skin. And then also how much time you have in the morning and at night. If you're a new mom, you don't have a lot of time to take 7 products and put them on your face. You need something simple for now, and maybe later you'll be fine. So, I did have a lot of moms before even I was mom, where they'd be like, well, my skin's doing this and that, but I only have 5 minutes. So you always say, okay, well, let's start with this. This is the most important product you need. And then later, once more in a routine, we can come back and you can add on to that. I basically will ask a lot of questions to get all the information I need in order to recommend that product. And all of these factors make a difference of what it is. If you have someone who's like, I'm breaking out, I don't know why, but she does yoga 5 times a day. So that's why you might be, your pores are clogged. So
That's
I think
me.
And okay, so this is my biggest pet peeve. And if you do it, I'm being very blunt, don't do it, but don't wear makeup when you're working out.
I don't.
And people do.
Yes.
And then they wonder why they're breaking out.
I've worked in the fitness industry for 4 years. I've seen a lot of girls in the gym with makeup, and I just cringe when I see the cake on their face.
I know. It's my biggest pet peeve. I'm like, guys, what are you doing? So yeah, the more information you have about their lifestyle and their daily routine, that determines what kind of products I can recommend for them. So I don't say that I'm an expert, but it's just more of a genuine okay, well, this worked for me, but this worked for my friend, this worked for that. I think it does that. And nothing works overnight. You have to be consistent. So that's something I always tell them, okay, well, this is what you're going to do. So if you want instant gratification, you can't use this. And then I always ask for a budget too. Some people are like, I have no budget. Some people are like, I want to stay between 50. And that's the cool part about our store is that I found brands at every price range. So people, I think in the beginning, people were kind of intimidated because they're like, oh, it's a small little boutique. It must be really expensive. And so I remember a lady came in, she's like, I just want a gift for $20. And I'm like, okay. And she was super nervous. She's like, are you sure? I was like, yeah, we got this. And there are larger retailers that you can get a gift for $20, but you could probably get one thing. But I brought in brands at every price range where I made her a little gift basket with 3 or 4 products for $20. And she was so surprised. And she's like, oh, okay. And it's a good thing. It's not little mini things or not. It would be a good size product. And they're good products, not even oh, if it's $6, it's not going to work. I just try to bring everything in different price ranges and not necessarily like, the 100. I think we don't have anything over 128, but
What's the 128 thing?
oil.
Oh,
It's a face oil.
yeah, something
So
that's
it's just
that
like
highly
the bigger.
concentrated.
Yeah, and we had one balm, but it did everything. Like if you use that, you didn't have to use an eye cream and all these different products. That was 160, but we recently took it off the shelves because no one bought it. But that was like a learning experience for myself too. This whole year, what kind of products our clients were like. And so this last year, we hit 1 year in February, and now I know what products my clients want, what products we should bring in, what they get excited about, and things like that. So we learned like, okay, anything over 130 is not working for us. So I've definitely had some really great brands reach out, but their price point was way too high. And I don't want to say that their products are too expensive, but it's just more their products just won't work in my store, and I don't want them to go through that trouble to bring it in my store and then not sell it, right?
Yeah, that makes total sense. Everything sells differently in different contexts. So something
Yeah.
that might go well in Grad Hospital might not go well in Jenkintown, but
Yeah.
something that might sell in Manhattan might not sell in Philly. It's all based upon context
Yeah.
and the customer that you have.
Getting a pulse on your customers, especially in a year time frame, you can learn so much. And if you don't
Yeah.
make any changes in that time, then what really became of the year, you know? So
Yeah.
that's
No,
cool
no,
that you've learned
definitely.
from the
Even
brand.
with COVID, I had some new brands that I held off on when we shut down. And then I decided close to reopening is to introduce them to my clients, because that's what would excite them to say, okay, she's opened again and now she has all these new brands, not just the same stuff over and over. And I think that works really well because they brought people in to check out all the new stuff. And we're doing that safely too. So we only have 2 people come in at a time. We're checking temperatures, only masks allowed, sanitizer everywhere. We've sanitized the entire store and every single product that we had in the store, including lip balms to skincare products. And anytime something comes in, we're cleaning it when we take it out of the box. And then when you check out, we have the acrylic shield as well. But anytime you check out, we will wipe down all the products before we put them in the bag. That's also just like a learning experience for our clients. They want to feel safe when they come in, and we are doing what we can to make sure that we can make them feel safe. So they want to come in, but they may feel scared, so this is what we need to do to make them feel safe.
So part of your mission with the Indie Shelf is to support other small business owners. How do you pick
Yes.
and choose which brands to carry, and are there certain criterias that they need to meet in order for you to carry them?
Yeah, so they're not as strict as you may think they are, in terms of like if you compare it to like other retailers like Credo and Folane. So they have a set rule what it can and cannot be. I think my goal is to bring in small brands, so small brands that are just launched or very small following. The goal is to not bring in brands that are in Sephora, because there is a Sephora down the street from us. I'm not trying to compete with them, but I also feel like if you're in Sephora, you're successful. With that said, in the last year, as I mentioned before, some of the brands that I had brought in did grow, and they are in these stores now. I don't think any Sephora store brands I have, but like Nordstrom has some. They were in our store before, and we really like them, so we keep them. It's mainly just being a small independent brand that has good effective products. So I'll talk to the brands. So a lot of the brands will send me products. I will evaluate it. There are some things, little things like accessories that I may not test out just because I just know that we need them in the store, and I'll read reviews on them. For the most part, brands are very generous. They'll send you a care package and you'll get to test out the products. If it's something not for my skin, I have a good team of friends and family who are always waiting for me to let them try it. So I know that they will check it out. I give them like a timeline, say, this is what you need to try, let me know. But things like candles, I'll even try at the house, where I have a large room and I have a small room, and I'll test it out and see, what the scent is like in the larger room and the smaller room. If it's a lot of black smoke or, this like little things that you may not think of for a candle, but candles are expensive, but they're great. We can't live without them. So we want to make sure that we have the best candles too. Other than that, if it's something now that I know that my client a little bit more, if it's something that, may not work for clients, I won't have the brand go through trouble to send me product if I know I'm not going to bring it in. It's expensive to send products to a buyer. Just that comes from my Muskan perspective. I could send a whole set of lipsticks to a buyer. If she doesn't use it, that's a lot of money that I just lost for inventory. I also named it the indie shelf just because there are a lot of small brands in beauty and, hair care and all whatnot. But I hope as we grow, I could also have the ability to bring in indie brands that are not beauty and skincare and hair care related, but are just small independent brands. So it kind of gave me a little bit of leverage to, not be limited to that one type of product.
What other categories would you expand into?
A little bit more home. So we do have some home care, like in terms of candles. We have candles, oils, diffusers and stuff. But I think I'd like to get into like bedding but we would need to grow a lot more and also have a new like location or a second location and stuff. I don't think I would get into fashion. I think that's a whole nother world. But again, I didn't want to call it like the beauty shop or the indie beauty shop because I wanted to have the ability to grow into something else.
Yeah, I think home textiles are such an interesting category.
The thing is they're everywhere, but they're very expensive.
Oh, yeah.
So, trying to find a way where it's still cute, but not ridiculous. So we'll figure it out.
What are some products that you'd recommend for people who need to chill the F out in 2020?
If you're a bath person, bath salts are definitely popular and a must-have. They have a nice scent. You have the lavender scents, but you also have the Epsom salts and the eucalyptus to really help you like relax and de-stress. Candles have been very, very popular, mainly because people are home and now they're like, we want our house to smell nice. So we have tons of candles that have been flying off the shelves, and everyone needs at least 2 or 3 candles in their lives just to like make sure they don't run out of candles. Even if you're home, your skin is going to go crazy and that's going to stress you out more. So you still need to take care of your skin. Have some sort of face mask and a cleanser. Yeah, you don't need makeup right now, but you need the cleanser and you need the face mask. And that will make you feel better. It also kind of gives you like a spa feeling where, okay, I'm not going to my spa right now, so let me just do this at home. So have that candle on, jump into the tub, and put that mask on. Yeah.
That sounds like a great morning, afternoon, or evening.
Right?
That
Doesn't
sounds
matter
like a
what it
good
is.
gift basket too. You could just set that up and then deliver it.
We've done that. We've been doing that the last 3 months, definitely.
The 2020 selection.
We actually have a card that says it's been a real fuck of a year or something. Mind my language, but it's been selling, and I think we've sold like 10 or 12 like in the last 2 weeks. Just because it looks like a floral, like very professional looking card, but then it says that, and you're like, wait, what does it say? So that's been our 2020 card, and we actually just got in birthday cards relevant to COVID too. So people have been really having fun with that, just because it's so relatable right now. So there's like a 6 feet distance card. There's another card that says "I miss you," and then you flip it, it says "F this." So it's just a lot of emotions all in the cards too, which have been selling as well.
I love that. I think we're at a point where the initial shock has kind of worn off. So now we can kind of joke about it a little bit. And
get your kicks.
Right.
So I know that in person you run through what someone's skin is like, their routine, their time that's available, their budget. I'm a guy. If I know these things, what can I find in the shop to help me out?
So skincare is unisex. I think people just think it's only for women. So I've recommended products that are not labels for guys, but are for guys. And some guys don't care, some guys do. And those guys that do care, we actually have a whole men's selection as well. So we have everything from skincare to hair care to body, shaving, beards, and yeah. So we have it all covered. So after talking to someone and what that guy, so their skin's a little bit different, right? Your skin's going to be probably a little bit more rough in texture. Most guys have either oily skin, or if they're shaving, it's like razor burn, or if they have a beard. So it's a lot of different things to look at that way. And that's why I say, like, don't limit yourself to specifically a men's line. You can go and look at those other brands that have a product best for your beard or your clogged pores or whatever it may be. So yeah, we will definitely start with that. And then I always ask that question. I'm like, do you want it to be specifically a men's line? And if they're like, no, I'll just get us what you need, then I go crazy. And if not, then we are limited to, just those men's products, which are, you for the most part have covered the concerns that they have. Oh, we also have colognes, which actually all the fragrances we have are unisex. So guys have bought them, girls have bought them. We've got it all. There's actually a lot of guys that come in for candles. So we have the muskier scent candles, and they're very popular for everyone, not just guys, because I don't know. The musky or the woodsy scent is a very popular option.
So Sabeen, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give to your former self when you were just starting off with the indie shelf?
I would probably say be patient and don't stress about don't be picky and stress about being perfect, because it works out regardless, and only I see the imperfections on there. So I think that would really have helped me when I was launching it. Yeah.
Where do you hope to be in 1 year and in 5 years with the indie shelf?
So post-COVID, I hope to just have things go back to normal and reopen, the changes that we've had to make because of COVID. And, again, like we're still doing well enough to stay in business, but I hope it stays that way. So I think the 1 year is just more like COVID recovery. It would have been a different answer pre-COVID. We had some really great plans for the indie shelf, but everything's now been pushed to the 5 years, where in 5 years, I hope to grow our locations. So I want to open one in the burbs, hopefully. And then that will allow us to do a lot more in terms of categories, but also brands and services too. But services have changed again now. So it's just the question, does that service plan go at the end of 5 years? But the other stuff, I really do hope that we can get some things going in the next 2 years or so.
Good to have those goals.
Yeah.
All right, Sabeen, we're going to wrap things up and we're going to dust these questions off the shelf. They're going to come at you quick. If you want to go into detail with your answer, you can. If you want to just give us a one-word answer, that's okay.
Got it.
That sound good?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, Danielle will lead this first question off.
Yes. Sabeen, what's your favorite place to get a facial in the city?
Forever Valentine.
In the Bach building, yes.
Yeah. So my esthetician left to go there, and that's why yeah. So I follow her.
Who is she?
Ashley Stan.
Yeah, I've seen her on their Instagram. I really want to get a facial there once the services resume. So.
Yeah, definitely. You should try it.
Favorite coffee shop, assuming you drink coffee.
Oh, I drink too much coffee to pick one. Rival Brothers.
What's your favorite museum or attraction in the city?
Oh, I don't do museums. Attraction, I think it's not really an attraction, but I love going and sitting around in Rittenhouse Square.
Classic, right up the block.
Yeah. Pre-COVID.
It's still good now. The benches are more than 6 feet apart, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right. Favorite restaurant in Philly?
I like the Love. I could keep going with this one, so I'll just stop right there.
Sure.
And are they Sprinkles or Jimmy's?
Oh, Jimmy's.
Very good answer. All right. Sabeen, thank you so much for this conversation. It was great learning more about the indie shelf and about you as an individual. Where can people find you?
They can find me on Instagram at the Indie Shelf Philly, and then eventually they'll find me at the store.
Very cool. Is there anything else you want to leave us with or talk about?
No, I really appreciate that you guys invited me to this. I had a really great time. Thank you so much.
And that concludes our first month of episodes. The Indie Shelf was a great way to tie off this month of podcasting, July 2020. What a time to be alive. If you haven't listened to our episodes with Nocturnal, V Marks the Shop, and Philly Style Bagels, you can find them on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and now Spotify.
Yeah, they finally let us in because we had enough content.
We made it. We're big timers now.
Yeah.
One thing that I took away from this conversation with Sabeen, who was so gracious to give us her time, was her transition from being a cosmetic chemist to marketing. I think that's such a cool pivot that she made within something that she was naturally interested in.
Yeah, I definitely understand the consumer packaged goods journey she's been on with her lipstick line. I've been on something similar with my protein balls products. So much respect to her, especially being a mom and trying to navigate that space. I can't imagine the work involved with both of those roles. I'm also specifically interested in the indie shelf and Sabine for some pretty selfish reasons. As you might know, my skin completely changed like 2 years ago when I turned 25. So I used to have great skin, could put whatever on it, didn't matter. Now I have dermatitis, under the skin acne, I break out, my face gets itchy. It's not a fun look. I didn't know that my skin would be worse in my late 20s than it was when I was a teenager, so I need to get my ass to the envy shelf.
I just popped a whitehead today.
Ew.
No blood, don't worry.
Ew.
But I'm definitely curious on what else I can do and what other products I can acquire to make my skincare and overall wellness a lot better. So that's why I will be going to the Indie Shelf, located in Graduate Hospital on Grace Ferry Ave.
Yeah, it's right by that heirloom market we sometimes bike to together, so it
Oh
seems
yeah, we
pretty
sometimes
convenient.
bike there.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to go soon. Maybe we'll post about
Definitely.
it on the gram.
Yeah, we'll do a live video for it.
Yeah. Great idea.
Yeah, we'll talk to Alex or whoever's working, see what's up.
Sounds great.
Get get the employee view of things.
Yeah, a different perspective.
Yeah, on the beat, in the streets.
All right.
So we'll wrap this up. If you don't already follow us on Instagram, you can find us at openinPHL pod. If you want to let us know what you think, if you have a guest in the Philadelphia area that you think would be awesome to chat with, hit us up at openinphlpod@gmail.com.
Leave us a 5-star review as well. Maybe we'll pick a lucky winner and give them something. I don't know what yet, but
We'll DM you a high five.
great idea. That I think
Or
that's in the budget.
or we'll do the voicemail with our voices. Your voicemail
Oh,
with our voices.
right. We could totally do that. We could do that celebrity cameo thing that people pay money for. You know how like reality stars will do it, or like D-list celebrities like Corey Massey from That's So Raven. We could do
Right.
one of those.
Right. All
Great.
right. Well, I'm going to continue playing Paper Mario for the Nintendo Switch. Email us also if you're a gamer. We can chat games.
All right. I'm gonna go sleep for 14 hours because the past 2 weeks have been kicking my ass.
Okay. Leave us a review. We love you all. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.